Welcome, everyone. According to my laptop, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll get started. Welcome to the June board meeting. It's nice to have so many friendly faces out there. Welcome, and glad you're here. We are all present this evening, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America, to the republic which stands one nation. Justice for all. We're going to kick off our meeting with an ELA presentation from with Megan Coker. Welcome, Megan. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello. I will be joined by Sarah Olson and Ashley Gershon for this presentation as well. If you don't mind, before we jump into English Language Arts, I would just like to do a quick review of our curriculum renewal cycle, as it's our first year in this reimagined process. So just a refresher that the goals and the focus of these are the same as the previous process. And if you don't mind, I will have notes tonight. It's not my usual, but we have a lot that we want to share with you, and I don't want to miss anything. I do know that about you. So our focus and goals and expectations are to align curriculum with the New York State Learning Standards and Lake George expectations, enable K-12 alignment, create a living document in which curriculum can be updated and adjusted as needed, and keep the Board of Education informed. We have 4 different stages in this process, and our content areas are at different stages during different years. Having them separated out this way allows for us to provide more focused supports, and also for our elementary teachers who teach across content areas, it helps alleviate a heavy lift in multiple areas all at once. So there are the 4 different areas or stages, each with a specific focus. Tonight, we'll be presenting on both English Language Arts and World Languages, as they have just finished the research and audit phase. In this phase, teachers from both buildings come together to do a curriculum and data audit, and then determine areas to research and explore. From that research and exploration, there will be a curriculum renewal proposal that you'll hear tonight to the Board of Education, and that proposal will then determine the work of those 3 remaining stages. So I just wanted to set that stage before we started our presentations this evening. So we'll jump right into our English Language Arts presentation. Davis, we could do the English Language Arts one, please. Thank you. So I wanted to start with some of our foundations and frameworks that are currently existing. And you can see here in the blue boxes, we have our instructional components and instructional time for our different grade levels. As you see our grade levels progress, you can see that they become more integrated and the time lessens as students have those foundational skills established. The gray boxes show our assessments. So in grades K and 6, we do Fontes and Pinnell. It says F and P up there. That stands for Fontes and Pinnell. That's a benchmark that we do 3 times a year to determine independent and instructional reading levels for students. K8 is our iReady benchmark, which is also administered 3 times a year and measures reading performance individually and national norms. And then we have our 3 through 8 New York State assessment, which is administered once a year. In the high school, we have our grade 11th New York State regions. And then there's the option for 2 advanced placement courses, language and composition and literature and composition, which are in grades 11 and 12 respectively. The current standards were released in 2018, and you can see here just a small fraction of our ELA standards. These are the reading anchor standards. There are also anchor standards in writing, speaking and listening, and language. Each grade level has their own version of these standards that they work towards throughout the school year. As I said, the standards were released in 2018. the timeline for implementation was changed frequently due to COVID, but we're locked in now on this timeline. And this began, the implementation began in 2022-23 in grades pre-K through 8. That was when instruction and assessment were aligned to these new standards. So that means that last year's 3 through 8 exam was our first exam aligned to these new standards. Implementation has continued this year in 9th grade. Next year will be 10th grade. And then in 2025 and 26, our grade 11 instruction will be aligned to the new standards, and that 11th grade regents will also be aligned to those standards. So now that we've sort of laid down that framework, I'd like to talk more specifically about the work of the research and audit phase. So our purpose of the research and audit stage is to provide the structure and time for a systemic approach to examining current curriculum content, student outcomes, state and local initiatives, and instructional best practices in that targeted academic area, ultimately resulting in that renewal cycle proposal that we'll be getting to later tonight. Sarah and Ashley are going to talk more specifically about the different components, but I just wanted to highlight, we talked, actually I skipped the part. Going back here, I wanted to highlight something that's really critical for the success of this stage is a K-12 connection. So having all of our English language arts having a voice in that process. We have 5 English teachers here at the junior senior high school. However, at the elementary school, all of our classroom teachers are teachers of English. So it's not possible to have all of those teachers together for all of this work. So we needed to utilize some new structures along with some of our existing meeting and collaborative structures in place already. The key to this success was creating a curriculum renewal committee of teachers in both buildings and specialists from both buildings. And if you'd indulge me, I'd like to just give a shout out to those committee members because they really invested their time and efforts into this work. So from the high school, we had Carolyn Smith, Kaylee Seymour, and Sarah Olson. And from the elementary school, we had Kelly Montesano, Maggie Kelly, Emily Holderman, and Ashley Gershon. And so, as I explained, there was a combination of both existing and new structures. We kicked off with utilizing existing structures, and our curriculum leaders and HODs, or head of departments, did a curriculum audit within their existing meeting structures. That helped when we came together as a committee to reflect on the curriculum audit, and we also completed a data review. And from that work, created some areas to then target our research and exploration. That research and exploration, again, went back to our existing structures of existing meetings and superintendent's conference days. And then the committee reconvened to review those takeaways and put the proposal together. So I'm going to hand it over now to Sarah.
Okay, so as Megan just mentioned, the first part of the process was the curriculum audit, and the work of that was done in the existing structures at each building to gather the information from every teacher of what they covered, and then the committee was able to use that in the curriculum committee structure to explore the topics and themes. It was from every point along the way. It was a really meaningful process, I think, for everybody involved, just having that one look at the curriculum all the way K-12, and then to have that all right in front of us as a committee to look at. It was a really positive and meaningful experience. A few things came up in that audit, and to be able to notice together things that we saw in multiple places, revealing some clear themes for future work and for the research steps. So some of those were vocabulary and building common language and building common assessment practices. So that process was really meaningful in building connections and also motivating our teachers building forward in that process.
So as part of this audit, the K-12 ELA representatives were able to review the data from the assessments that Megan had previously mentioned. From this in-depth look, we were able to discuss any trends or takeaways that should be considered for further research to include in the ELA proposal to all of you tonight. The committee reviewed several data points that reflect proficiency levels for our core instruction. The goal was to analyze our data to decide if we saw any trends that would determine a need for further research. Our data showcased a really strong Tier 1 curriculum across grade levels. And this led our discussion to intervention and how our data is used to provide intervention for those students who might need Tier 2 or Tier 3 support across the district. So following this initial curriculum renewal committee meeting with the K-12 representatives, we were able to outline and determine the research and exploration needed at each building level. So at the elementary school, we began an extensive review process for our phonics programming. This process began last year as we recognized that there was a need for consistency in our K-2 programming. The work continued into this year where a committee was formed to review 2 programs that seemed to fit the needs that were established when we created our non-negotiables, while also considering our pre-K initiative. This committee generated the haves and have-nots of each program and considered the best practices included in the Science of Reading initiative. We decided that Wilson's Foundation would serve as our core phonics program. It was a priority to also ensure that we were explicitly teaching phonemic awareness in our pre-K through 2 sections, which led the committee to decide to actually marry the Foundations program with the Heggerty Phonemic Awareness curriculum. So we are really confident that the addition of this curriculum will provide our youngest readers with the skills they need to thrive.
So the research at the junior senior high school looked a little different. Here, the English department read and reflected on an article about the value and process of identifying essential standards that should be prioritized when building curriculum and assessment. And in addition to this, they explored the Linkit assessment tool, which is an online tool that provides a variety of assessment options with a standards focus. This provided some exposure for the English teachers to these concepts, allowing for a foundation to be laid that will facilitate the future work in these areas.
So in perfect timing with all of this, shortly after this curriculum renewal committee came together, Sarah, Jim, and myself had the wonderful opportunity to attend the statewide literacy conference after this meeting with our K-12 representatives. So the primary focus of the conference was to hold discussions around the meaning of the science of reading and how our curriculum decisions should revolve around the 50+ years of research surrounding how children develop reading and writing skills. At this conference, we were able to dive into the literacy briefs that New York State was releasing. So the briefs were broken down into 3 cohorts. You have the pre-K years, the elementary years, which are K through 6, and then you have the secondary years, which are grades 7 through 12. So within each of these cohorts, the primary focus of instruction lies within the big 6 skills and competencies and the high impact instructional practices that build the reading and writing relationship. So I will tell you a bit about the big 6, and Sarah will share a little bit about the high impact instructional practices. So the big 6 are skills that the science of reading research highlights as competencies that support effective reading and writing. These skills are oral language, phonological awareness, phonics, comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary.
The high impact practices or instructional practices are about cultivating strong literacy skills through specific skill development. And the science of reading expands to include writing and communication skills through these practices. These become actions and expectations in the instructional design. Excuse me. And one of our main takeaways from the conference that Jim and Ashley and I were able to go to was that the work we have been doing here at Lake George through the research and audit stage and previous work that has been happening is right in line with the state initiatives outlined in these literacy briefs. So it was confirming and the work that is being done as we're headed right in that right direction.
So all of this great work in the research and audit phase led the committee to pinpoint 2 areas of focus for the renewal proposal. And the first is to implement a consistent and explicit phonics and phonemic awareness curriculum with foundations in Heggerty. And the other is to develop vertically aligned essential standards and skills pre-K to 12, specifically identifying and determining how to assess for writing and vocabulary. We clearly do these things already, but we want to make sure there's that pre-K through 12 continuum. So lastly, as we look ahead to that work involved, some needs that might come along with that, primarily for phonics and phonemic awareness curriculum, it's the resources and materials for those 2 programs, along with professional development and training for them. And for the essential standards pre-K-12 work, again, it's professional development and time together to do the vertical alignment. And potentially, there may be an assessment tool that is needed to be created or purchased. Any questions for us?
Thank you. That was very comprehensive, yet understandable. And I really, really appreciate how you break it down for us and explain it to us. And I love the teamwork that is so apparent for the reading curriculum that has been selected, and it sounds like y'all are ahead of the curve. So congratulations on that. And just the willingness to participate in professional development, that's means a lot. So thank you for that, putting in that time. You guys have any questions or comments?
This was great and it was very clear and I really appreciate all the work that you put into it. I just had a question, you know, when you have the assessments and there are students identified as kind of needing extra help, are there enough resources in both schools for those students to get extra? Like, is that part of the curriculum or is there a separate curriculum? Like, how does that work?
So when we start talking about tier 2 and tier 3, that's where we're talking about our AIS services and special education services. And that happens both in class and out. So it depends on the student's needs, whether it's part of this curriculum or beyond.
And do the educators in like the AIS sections, are they being trained in the curriculum? Like, or so that
Yes.
they're in? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
And if I didn't mention this when I first spoke, the K through 12 alignment is something way back when I first started volunteering in the school. It was something in our strategic planning review committee that I heard and have heard through the years. And we're really getting into the heart of that, which is so fantastic. Tonight, I've heard it tonight and in some previous presentations. So thank you for your work on that piece as well. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, we will roll right on to world languages.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Ashley. So as with English language arts, I'd like to start a little bit with just some bit about the frameworks that currently exist in world languages. So world languages, we have 4 teachers who teach French and Spanish for grades 3 through 12. So when we think about our K-12 alignment in our world languages, it's more manageable for these teachers to get together using our existing structures, and they have a very strong department and work very closely together. In grades 3 through 6 at our elementary school, this instruction works in a flex model. So our students receive world language in grades 3 through 6 once every 6 days for approximately 40 minutes. So that ends up being about 21 hours of world language instruction per year. And that instruction is split up. Half the year is French, half of the year is Spanish, and that curriculum spirals as the students progress through the grades. It really provides great introduction and exposure to both of the languages, which is wonderful because when they then enter the junior, senior high school, they choose one of the languages to continue to pursue. And students are required to take and pass their language in 7th and 8th grade courses. And then they also need to pass the Checkpoint A exam in order to receive the credit required for graduation. Continuing on into the world language courses in 9th grade is one of the pathways for students to achieve an advanced Regents diploma. And you can see in that pathway, there's another checkpoint exam after 11th grade. And then in 12th grade, there's the option for our seniors to take a university and high school class where they can potentially earn 4 college credits. Another opportunity for our seniors is the Seal of Biliteracy. This is a graduation accreditation that recognizes a high level of language proficiency in both English and another second language. So one of the main goals of our world language department is to keep kids in world languages beyond those required 7th and 8th grade courses. And we just have a little data here that shows for the last 3 years by grade level, the enrollment percentages. And if you look at the last column, the 3-year average, it's really quite impressive when you think about the variety of electives and pathways that students have access to here at Lake George. The participation numbers are still very high in our world language courses. So the current standards for world languages were just released in 2021. And there are 2 main anchor standards, communication and culture, with substandards for each of those. One difference with our world language standards, they're not grade banded. So in a lot of our other content areas, they're banded, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. So instead, for world languages, they're based on proficiency ranges that align to those checkpoint exams. And so those start from novice low and go up to intermediate high. And with their timeline, you can also see that this implementation actually began last fall in 7th grade and will continue with a grade added every year. And you can also see where the checkpoint exams will shift to the new standards as well. So because of that timeline and having that implementation start last year, the World Language Department actually was doing some development and some work before even reaching the research and audit stage. So last summer, this work started and they were revising lessons, units, and assessments to align with those New York State standards, specifically for 7th grade last summer. Additionally, excuse me, they were working, looking into their checkpoint A and B exams. So it's a local decision what exam is used for the checkpoint exams. Our department has chosen to use the New York Capital Area Languages Consortium, that's a mouthful, their exam. And so they also have begun looking at those exams to ensure that they will be aligning with the new standards. So getting into the research and audit phase, as I said, we didn't need to form a committee like we did with ELA. With the 4 teachers, they were able to utilize superintendent's conference days and department meetings to really dive into this work. And it's work that was underway. However, they did find that when they did the curriculum audit and put all of their curriculum information into a singular document, it gave them a comprehensive view and they could reflect on that. You can see here some of the strengths and areas for growth that they discovered as they were looking across their curriculum. Emily Cooper, the head of the department, kind of summarized them by saying that they found a shift to more thematically and culturally diverse and aligned curriculum, that they're learning in the language instead of learning about the language. In addition to the curriculum audit, they did look at some of their data they have. So this slide shares some of their data points from the checkpoint exams, both checkpoint A and B for French and Spanish. And this is from the last 2 years. And you can just see that the results are really quite impressive with our passing rate and our mastery rate. They also looked at some data that connects more to our create values goal. So what they were doing is they were looking at opportunities for students outside the classroom or beyond the classroom for participation in world languages. And so you can see here a list of the many opportunities where students are exposed to or practice in both language and cultural competency skills. So again, their work led to 2 areas to pinpoint in their curriculum renewal proposal. What they would like to propose is that they will continue to revise lessons, units, and assessments to align with the New York State standards for grades 8 through 12. And they'd also like to develop common assessment structures by creating common rubrics using those proficiency ranges and performance descriptors that New York State releases with the standards. Looking ahead at that work, some needs that they might have come back down to the idea of time as a department and potentially professional development around those standards and assessments. And then separately, they also just wanted to highlight continued support for those cultural competencies. And that might include things like travel opportunities, creating interdisciplinary opportunities, or community partnerships, just to name a few. Any
Maggie,
questions?
can you look back in your notes and say what Emily said? They learn in,
They're learning in the language instead of learning about the language.
I love that.
Isn't that
I
great?
love that. Yes, that's awesome. I've had the good fortune of attending, I think, every single Seal of Biliteracy since it began. And I am just wildly impressed every single time that I attend that at the proficiency of the kids, their ability, multiple things, not just the language, but their confidence in presenting and being up there, showing their leadership and their confidence in the dialogue back and forth is even more impressive than the presentation because that they don't know what is going to be asked of them. It's really, really cool. And I love that not all districts start world language in the elementary school, and we're really fortunate to have that. A question popped in my head, and you may not have an answer. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'm curious if there's ever been conversations about starting our kindergartners, kindergarten first and second graders, because I think the research shows the earlier kids start learning world language, the better. So if you don't have an answer for that, that's fine. It's just popped into my head. How early can we get them going? So,
Conversation to have.
yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment. I just because this is sort of this first pass through this cycle, I just really appreciate the broad perspective, the K-12 like step back and like formally you know, looking at the strengths and areas of needs and guessing that those things happen always in the past too, but just the systematic approach to it, it just feels so grounded and well, it makes it easier to reflect on, but it just like it just seems like a really solid like base to stand on when you're reviewing. So I just appreciate it and I wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. It was a really exciting process to go through. And again, that K-12 piece, it's harder to do in some of the content areas. And so to build these structures to bring it together was powerful.
I also want to reiterate, like, I just think it's so intentional and if things aren't going to fall through the cracks because it's a system. And I just thank you so much for creating it. And thank you to the World Languages thing. My family moved to Lake George because of the elementary school world language program. That's because I think it's so important. So keep up the good work. Glad we do it.
Wonderful.
And I kind of, Marion, you made me think about something that I thought of in the ELA, but it's true for here as well. But I'm so appreciative that we're in a culture where people feel like they're in a safe space that they can say, here's where we need to grow. Here's where we see some areas that we do need support and we do need some professional development. And for people to be able to just be open and saying, here's where we're not doing as well as we would like to be. So congratulations to everyone for being open and for that culture to be here in the district, for people to feel safe
Yeah.
to say that.
Along with the safety is just the commitment that our
Yeah.
teachers have to always grow and do their
Yes.
best. Yeah.
Well, it's evident and much appreciated.
Yeah.
So thank you. Anybody else have anything? Well, bravo to both
Thank
of
you.
those presentations. Thank you. No pun intended. Bravo. Our next thing on the agenda is elementary update with Jim Conway.
All right, good evening, everybody. So I know that Fran will talk more about this, but on behalf of the elementary school, I wanted to thank Tricia Biles for all that she has done as a member of our Board of Education and supporting the children and the staff of the elementary school. You helped navigate us through some very difficult times, and we all thank you for that. Welcome. All right, so since last month, a lot has happened at the elementary school, and I do want to just point out a few of those things. We had a wonderful art show and an open house. It was very well attended, going on in conjunction with everything that was happening in the gym. I wanted to mention that. I also wanted to talk about music, and at the curriculum committee meeting, we had a great presentation from Amy Baker about music, and our music program is certainly thriving. Last month and this month, so much happens, and I want to mention just a few of those things that Mariah and Mallory do a tremendous job with. We had our NISMA Solo Festival going on, our spring concert dress rehearsal, the spring concert, our American Young Voices, where we had 30 students. They brought down to MVP Arena for 1,200 kids singing and putting on a concert, and it was wonderful. And they're busy with other events that are going on this week as well. But at our concert, I shared a statistic that over 80% of our kids in grades 4 through 6 are either in band or chorus, and many are in both. And that is a credit to the work that they're doing and that the music department is doing as well. While our numbers as collectively may be shrinking, our percentage of kids participating in the arts continues to rise. So it's really, really great to see that. And that's the direct result of the work that they're doing. We had a school-wide wellness day last week. And as a Springfield College grad, I believe in the humanics philosophy of spirit, mind, and body. And that was totally on display. Our teachers did a tremendous job, our special area teachers, putting together and organizing this school-wide K-6 event where kids were involved in activities throughout the day. And it really, really went very well. It was our first crack at that specific topic for field day-like atmosphere, and it went very well. Upcoming events. Friday is our annual Flag Day ceremony, 8:20 start. If you're able to make it, join us at the flagpole for some festivities. There will be music, of course, and we look forward to seeing folks at that. The Leadership Day, Taylor Swift is not coming, we found out, but we know that many of you are. If you have not RSVP, just let me know if you'll be there. Again, the theme this year is really focusing on students finding their voice. We provide a tremendous amount of opportunity to them, not only in the arts, but throughout the school day in many ways. And we're proud of that in both buildings, K-12, that close to 100% of our kids are involved in something beyond their classroom. We want them to find something that they're passionate about in addition to reading, writing, or math. And in doing that, that next step is that they're using what they're passionate about to find their voice, help others, or do great things with that talent or those skills that they have. And that's what we're trying to recognize or celebrate. We're starting to get some preliminary data on our building level goals for this year, and I will be sharing how we made out over the summer when all of that information is in. I can share with you that we have moved in a positive direction with all of our goals, and I'm going to be really excited to share some of that with you. One update that I'll quickly give is our success with ensuring that high levels of chronic absenteeism. And we've shared and we've talked about this throughout the year, how it wasn't a Lake George thing. It was a statewide, a regional wide, across the U.S. Problem. But we've gone from 14.1% of our students being chronically absent, which is 18 or more days, to 7.8%, which is 930 fewer absences this year, which is wonderful. So we're proud of that, and we'll recognize some of that success Leadership Day as well. Just want to note, over the summer, as always, we will be very busy at the elementary school. August 5th through 23rd will be our Jumpstart program. So I thank you for continuing to support that opportunity for us to provide intervention to our students that will benefit from that. We also are hosting our annual swim camp on the 9th to 23rd, and each 50 students that participate in that program. Mentioned there's a lot going on curriculum-wise, and with that we have teachers who are coming in and will be involved in professional development throughout the summer, notably in math and ELA and some of the phonics work that we'll have going on as well. And then finally, a lot of work going on to prepare for our new pre-K, our first incoming class of pre-K students. So there's a lot of curriculum work that's been ongoing to be ready for those little baby 3 and 4-year-olds. So we're excited to have. Any questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim, the absentee rate that went from 14 to 7, not to take away from what you're going to talk about at that leadership time, but what do you attribute it to?
Yeah, so a number of things. We had an action team through our educational cabinet. There are 6 action teams. One of them was focused on making sure we were doing things to improve that. One of them was we had a mentoring program. So we looked at over the summer and into the fall, who are those kids that maybe could benefit from having another person in the building that they're developing a relationship with, that's staying on top of them and seeing if there's something that they might be struggling with and help them work through that. We posted our attendance. We kind of made it a big deal. We looked at, hey, how are we doing? Are kids here? And talking about it. So I think that's part of it. I also think distancing ourselves from what we went through, 5 years ago, where we got really good at, hey, stay home. Your kid has the sniffles.
Right.
And so what did people do? They kept their kids home because yes, we would have sent them home. So we're not living in that world either. But I think also just a lot of communication with families and making it something that we talked about.
And the mentoring was with students that typically had a high absenteeism rate?
They did and or had the potential for that.
Got it.
So
Okay.
we had, I want to say 30 staff members who took someone on in a mentoring role, just
Got it.
voluntarily did that.
See, if that's the key word right there, was voluntarily.
Yeah.
I don't remember where we were having a conversation somewhere and we talked about how somebody went to the teacher group and said, I have a problem and I need volunteers, and teachers were volunteering to help, which is phenomenal. I'm glad that it was more voluntary because there's a lot more buy-in
Right.
from that.
And it was
Okay.
it was brought up by a staff member two meetings back at one of our faculty meetings. Hey, we're going to do this again next year, aren't we? Because I'm going to do it. So I think it will be something that will just become
Awesome.
part of what we do.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the secondary update with our junior senior high school principal, Mr. Frank Koza.
That's collective efficacy. All right. So why fit in when you were born to stand out? Who said it? Dr. Seuss did. So, no, I didn't. I can't take credit for that. So our 55 graduates, pending graduates of the senior class of Lake George High School, will be walking the stage on June 27th, which is a Thursday, at 6 o'clock, to that theme of why fit in when you were born to stand out. So just some logistics with the board. We'll be in the gymnasium, as I indicated at our last meeting, and we'll need you all dressed in your caps and gowns in the main hallway near the offices at about 5:30 that evening. We'll proceed with the same format as we have historically. with the board president and the superintendent handing out the diplomas and shaking hands along with the rest of the board. And then obviously, if you have somebody that you know or close to a graduate, you can work with John and Katie to step in during that. So again, that's 5:30 on Thursday evening. So we're looking forward to that. Any questions about graduation? It's going to be a great ceremony. We're really working with the honor group to have some fun that evening. There'll be a lot more energy than most ceremonies. So just a little hint there. So I'm going to forego the remaining part of my update because I've been asked and took the pleasure and honor to speak in regards to Tricia. On behalf of Jim and John and Megan, Bonnie, myself, along with the staff of the school district. Tricia, as your tenure on the Board of Education comes to a close, Tricia loves meaningful words, so I'm going to try my best. Words seem inadequate to express the depth of gratitude we owe you for your dedicated service over these many years. You have been a guiding light, a steady hand at the tiller, navigating our school district through both calm waters and tempestuous storms. With unwavering leadership and an unshakable commitment to the excellence within the professional enterprise of educating the youth of our district, and especially your laser focus to supporting the dedication and talent of the professional staff of our school community. When challenges arose, you do not flinch nor falter, but instead you rose to meet each moment head on, boldly venturing into the figurative and literal fire with courage and resolve, alone and with your fellow board mates. Your strength of character, your moral fortitude, and your intelligence, civic mindedness were all exactly what our community, our school, and our board needed as you championed the best interests of our students, teachers, and families alike. You were and are the embodiment of grace under pressure, making tough decisions with wisdom, care, love, intelligence, reason, compassion, and logic. Throughout your time on the board, you have left an indelible mark on our district and board that will be felt for generations to come and future boards to be seated. Your legacy is one of vision, integrity, and an abiding belief in the transformative power of a quality education, the relevance and strength of a functioning and focused board of trustees and governance team. Through your work, you have helped guide a thoughtful focus, assisted with the reestablishment of a stabilized governance team with a very strong set of norms, for which all of this has positioned our district for future work, continued growth with greatness, for which we are all eternally grateful. As you move on to your next endeavor, please know that you will be deeply missed. Our community, our school, our students, our staff are infinitely better because of the profound impact of your selfless service and leadership. And Tricia, we wish you the best in your future pursuits, and you will forever have our admiration and heartfelt thanks. Thank you so very much.
Well said. Thank you, Fran. Well, I'm having a hard time myself. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report with Mr. John Luthringer.
Because it feels so appropriate, and Fran, thank you so much for your eloquent words. They certainly were so meaningful. And Tricia, I know our time has been shorter than for the rest of the district, but I also wanted to thank you so much for our time together. You have been a source of wisdom and support, and it's been wonderful to be with you for these last 2 years. And I know we've bonded over things like Star Wars, and as much as I love Star Wars, so I know that in Star Wars language, I'll always be a Padawan, right? So, and certainly we know in that world there is opportunities for like Obi-Wan and those characters to come back and be supportive. So I know I'll look forward to those opportunities in the future. And it is appropriate. I do want to present to you a certificate of appreciation from the district here to honor your 6 years of service to the Lake George Board of Education and to our district. Your guidance and direction as a board member have strengthened the bond between the community and the school. And certainly we're also appreciative of your service. So thank you so much, Tricia. I do have a few other updates here as well. I wanted to take a moment. We've had so many wonderful curriculum presentations tonight. We had our curriculum committee, the board committee met earlier. We had presentations from music, business, and the family, career, and consumer science teachers as well, along with the presentations on ELA and world languages. So it was really just a celebration of the great curriculum work here. And I want to just thank our teachers for their dedication and really the leadership of Megan through this process. This is a reimagined process. It has been a great year, as you've heard here. I don't need to elaborate anymore, but I just want to thank them all because I really believe that we have a much more purposeful process, as you've all heard, and we're really excited for the future. So this was the first year, so really thank you so much. Thank you to Ashley and Sarah for your leadership in the buildings as well. So thank you for all of your work this year. I do have a couple updates as well on transportation. So we'll dovetail the transportation here. We have a couple different things going on. One of them is actually occurring on Thursday. As you'll notice in our, we have one of the resolutions is in regards to our bus proposition passing. So we will be getting an electric bus, which we're very excited about. So we had this opportunity, Bonnie and I have been working on, and we're jokingly coining it a Touch a Bus event. Now, it's a play on words from the Touch a Truck event that goes around where lots of different kids can come out and experience different vehicles. But essentially, we're going to have an electric bus, a Bluebird Type C bus, or a big passenger bus, 65 student bus. It will be in our region, in our community, and our campuses on Thursday for the better part of the whole day. So from 9 to 11, we're going to have, it will be out at our bus garage, our existing bus garage. And that opportunity from 9 to 11 will be for our bus drivers. So we'll have representation from Bluebird, New York Bus Sales, really experts in the field. Bonnie and myself, Andy Raymond, who's done a lot of research and studying of electric buses. And it'll be a first opportunity for our bus drivers to get on it, check it out, take it for a ride, and really get their eyes on it and kind of get a feel for it. The day is not designed for specific training. It's more of just an acclimation. So we're excited for that. From 11 to 1, we've invited EMTs, first responders, fire, Warren County Sheriff, representatives from our community. They'll be able to come out and experience the same thing. We'll have a nice little luncheon for them, and they'll be able to see the bus and ask questions with some of the experts that will be there as well. Then from 1 to 3, we're going to drive it over to the elementary school where it'll be parked, an opportunity for some of our youngest families who predominantly ride our school buses. Will be able to experience it at the end of the school day as well. So really just a nice first opportunity for our community to experience an electric bus. It really looks just like a normal bus, except that it's a lot quieter. And so we're excited for this first opportunity. Secondly, going out later this week, one of the things we talked about is we were bringing forth a third bus run for our after school activity run. You'll remember, the board will remember we talked about that. It's gone very successfully this year. But in that same vein, our goal is to really continue to create efficiencies in our transportation department. As we get smaller, that is something that we need to pay attention to. It's something that we need to focus on. So what we're going to do this year is we're actually going to reach out to all of our families and do a transportation survey. Hasn't been done in, I don't know, quite some time. So it's really going to be an opportunity for families to share some feedback, but also to give us data on ridership. Like who needs to ride the bus and who doesn't. We do have families that drop off every single day. So we're going to get some really strong data from our families. But our goal in that is to really streamline things. And we have four goals that we're going to be working on to hopefully implement at the start of the year. Number one is dedicated routes. This is something that we've been really talking about all year, but we're really looking to create separate bus routes for elementary students and junior, senior high school students. This would ensure age-appropriate services and minimize travel and wait times. So essentially what that means is our goal is that we would have a set of buses for the elementary and a set of buses for the junior, senior high school. It would not impact end times of the day or anything like that, but it would allow our students to get home quicker in both buildings. The second goal is looking at centralized stops. So we would potentially have collective pickup and drop-off points designed to enhance efficiency and safety, again, reducing the time buses spend on the road. This is an important step, especially as we transition to electric vehicles as well, but also it is something that's going to help us be more efficient. We have a need for our buses to get back here for our numerous after-school activities and athletic runs, and that's a challenge right now. So if we can create in some of our neighborhoods some of a more centralized spots in the neighborhood, that will help reduce wait times, will help get our buses back here so that we can be more efficient in getting our buses back out for our athletic runs. Our third goal is to improve our late bus services. This continues to be a goal. We want more effective late bus routing to accommodate after-school activities and ensure timely runs. We were able to do that this year, but we went into this year knowing that it wasn't the most perfect plan. So we want to enhance that and make it a better plan going into next year. The fourth goal of this is really to enhance accessibility. We want greater access within our transportation services to support all students, including those with special needs or unique programming. We do have a need. We do have a need for that type of programming, especially with students going to some different locations across our region. So those are the four goals that we're going to survey our families on to get some feedback and also to look at our ridership data. We'll be presenting more information on this in the summer as we collect it. The survey is set to go out later this week. We've been working closely with Andy Raymond on this and something we've been talking about all year with the administrative team as well. And certainly we believe these goals will help us really create safety, more efficient runs, and get our kids home faster too. Questions?
Thanks, John. I'm wondering if there's, and if you don't know it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Is there an existing metric that if you live X amount of miles away from the school, then you are on a school bus? And will that metric be something that we'd look at with centralized stops, that you're, the distance to that centralized stop?
Do you mean like the distance a student would have to walk to that?
Yeah.
We don't have a metric for that. One thing we talked about is why in the survey, there is a opportunity for feedback, because we believe that we can work with all families on their own unique situations. I do know that some districts do have that metric. We currently don't. That can certainly be something that we can talk about with the board as well. We do have I just have a couple other quick updates here. We are rapidly approaching the end of the 2023-24 capital outlay project. It's been a long process, but we're excited to come to a close here. So starting Thursday, we're going to have working towards 6 univents being installed in this building. We've been working with our teachers and Mr. Koza on this. It is right up against the end time, but we're confident that we can get this done. There will be some in the cafeteria and then in some of the classrooms as well. So 6 univents to be installed before June 30th. And then also we'll be closing out the ARP and ESSER federal funding, which you'll remember we used for univents as well. That will occur 3 additional univents this summer. Those are more involved. We need our classroom spaces vacated for that. So those are going to happen right after the July 1, right after 4th of July. And those involve more masonry work. So we'll talk more about that, but there will be some scaffolding, some different things that we'll be working through with Catalfamo as the general contractor for that one. And then as both Fran and Jim have mentioned, the end of the year is rapidly approaching. We have so many wonderful events going on. And I just wanted to give the board a quick reminder here about that last week of school. It is a unique end due to the Regent schedule this year. So that Monday, June 24th, is actually a K-6 half day. We'll have our district assembly and luncheon that afternoon. Seventh grade 7 through 12 do have Regents and other exams. Tuesday, June 25th is a full day for all staff, but it's a K-6 staff conference day. There will not be students there at in the elementary. 7/12 we'll still have the Regents physics in the morning and then a rating day in the afternoon. So it'll be a good opportunity on that day for our teachers to have some time to end the year on a positive note, getting their classrooms in order and things like that to head off to the summer. Wednesday, June 26th, summer officially begins for students and staff. Thursday evening, we have graduation, which you heard about, and we look forward to lots of events. We were fortunate to have Mary Ann representing the Board of Education at the Senior Athletic Awards last night, which was a really wonderful event, and we look forward to the rest of them coming up. So lots of great things going on.
Any questions? I'm excited about Touch the Bus. We had a tremendous community support at the budget for our electric bus, a really, really wide margin of support for that. So it's awesome that they're going to have an opportunity really quickly to get to see the bus. So thank you for organizing that. We're moving in now to our committee reports, and the first committee report is Audit and Finance Committee with Mario. Okay, perfect. Our Audit and Finance Committee with Mario Fasula, who's the chair of that committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At the meeting, we reviewed the April 24 Treasurer's Report. We did receive reimbursement of almost $1.2 million from the county, which fully satisfied any outstanding collections of school taxes. I just repeat myself just so everybody knows, we are not on the hook for school taxes. It's the town and county's responsibility to collect all the tax bills. And then they pay the school anything that is unpaid, and they are responsible to go back and collect and tack on to next year. So we're very fortunate in that we don't have to go chasing taxpayers for that. So we're always paid in full by April 1st. We also received interest in the amount of almost $63,000 for the month. We reviewed the Clean Waters Report. There was really nothing on there noteworthy. Scott Preuser, who is our outside auditor, came in. He reviewed the audit plan for the 23-24 school year. He talked about this in his planning letter, which talked about timeframes when he'll be in-house with the anticipation to have everything completed by September, along with the request for information documents that's required from the business office. Scott does a ton of different schools. He was very complimentary of the organization of the business office, and they never have to go chasing, and typically they're very efficient with the information that he needs. We received 2 different proposals for legal services for the next school, for the 24-27 school year. We reviewed all of them. We looked at factors such as price, educational references, their resumes. After evaluating everything, we recommend that the district continue to partner with Gervin and Ferlazzo for general counsel and legal litigation services. We still get legal services such as tax certification, bonds, etc., from our other firms that we have been partnering with. So there's no change there. And then the last thing we reviewed was a Article 7 tax code. What? Say it again. Go ahead, John.
Certiorari.
Okay, the tax.
Certiorari.
Thank you.
Yes.
Process typically involves an administrative review of property assessments, and they can also include a judicial proceeding that requires filing a petition in the state Supreme Court under the Article 7 of the real property tax law. So we reviewed one case had been settled with no refund of taxes due, and the newly agreed assessment value will be used in the 24 assessment roll. The other 2 proposals and counter proposals for the remaining cases, we reviewed them, and we're comfortable with the terms. So again, we reviewed it, and our legal counsel also reviewed it for us and gave us guidance on it. And we're comfortable with the guidance they gave us. we're gonna, I believe it's on the consent agenda tonight. Our legal counsel will continue to represent the district and collaborate with the town attorney and assessor. Once a formal settlement is reached, then the board will need to, I'm sorry, once they settle it on those two, it'll be on the consent agenda at another meeting. But we feel comfortable going with the counsel that our legal team gave us on those. It was a very interesting conversation about how we can make a decision on the assessment of someone's property, whether we argue with them or not. And I think our legal counsel gave us the right guidance, but it's more up to the town and the county to go after them. And that was all of it. Any questions?
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you, John, for your help.
The next committee report is the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and Janine Bieber, who's the chair of that committee, will give us that report.
Oh, thanks, Katie. Our last meeting was on May 14th, and thank you, Bonnie, again for a very comprehensive slide presentation to go along with the meeting. And that's always so helpful. And well, there was quite a bit that was covered, but Superintendent Lutheringer just talked a bit about the project updates, which that's helpful in terms of my report right now. So in terms of the start of the meeting, we had Kevin Parrott reporting on daily operations, talking about the focus on maintaining athletic fields, also just the campuses in general in terms of making sure that first impressions are positive about our district. They're also working on developing an equipment inventory system to help make sure that that there's a replacement plan to keep machinery up to date, tools, et cetera. So that was great. He talked a little bit about summer projects with our staff involving carpeting, painting the offices, and regular replacement cycle work that'll be done. Let's see. Building project updates. Like I said, that has been covered. However, there has been also a new air conditioner installed in the high school server room. That's very important due to the sensitive equipment that's highly susceptible to overheating. So that was good to have that taken care of. The other part of the meeting focused on the fact that it was annual inspection report time of the year. So there was a lot going on there. We had a visit from the Department of Health. Those visits were unannounced. There was one minor facility citation that was corrected, otherwise no further follow-up necessary. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the good old DEC, also conducted an unannounced visit to the district. This was to review records and ensure the proper application of pesticides. Again, no citations or follow-up needed. In December, the New York State Department of Labor conducted an asbestos hazard emergency response audit and inspection. And so that was basically a visit to assess the compliance with these regulations. So they went through a thorough review of records, walk-through inspections of the premises, et cetera. Based on that, there were some recommendations. 4 of the recommendations could be resolved simply by showing records that weren't, that they didn't get to see at the time of the visit. And then other recommendations are being addressed or are literally not resolvable. So we're also looking into further testing, asbestos testing in areas such as sheds, dugouts, press box, concession stand, et cetera. So let's see, annual chemical disposal audit was done. No recommendations or citations there. The annual playground inspection was conducted. No citations, just a few suggestions to enhance fall safety. A reminder too, the New York State regulations require public school districts to test drinking water for lead contamination every 5 years. Our due date for a lead test will be by December 2025. They've lowered the threshold of the amount of lead allowable in the drinking water. So that will be done in a timely fashion, and that threshold of compliance will certainly be taken into consideration. Then the last thing was the Workplace Violence Prevention Act, and that mandates that public employers develop and implement programs to prevent and minimize workplace violence, ensuring the safety of public employees. So a risk evaluation assessment of the facilities was conducted, and the committee reviewed the results of the assessment and discussed potential solutions to address identified risks. I will say, I do want to back up on that though, because, and correct me if I am wrong, but wait a second, where did it go? The Lake George Central School District is in full compliance of that mandate. Even though there may be future issues to talk about or things to look at, but we are in good shape there. There were suggestions given, looking at implementing additional security measures, such as badge systems, two-way radios, et cetera. And again, many of these suggestions would need to be included in future capital projects, as the costs would require planning for sure. So that was our meeting. That's the report. Questions?
Thanks, Janine. When you talk about the lowering of the threshold with the lead, do we have any indication, is that from a health recommendation? Was that more of a politically motivated change? Do you know?
Interesting. I don't know. We didn't really, we didn't really talk about that in terms of, and I don't know if anyone, I don't have any background on that.
I think,
I'm thinking a little bit of both,
Mhm.
but
I think the recommendation came from the New York State Department of Health.
Yeah.
They lowered it from, I don't want to speak out of turn, it's from, I believe, 15 micrograms to 5
Mhm.
micrograms.
yep, that's correct.
And then it was phased in. So we have to now, all schools are required in the newest round of testing to test all drinking fountains and faucets. And we have to be, if we're below that, we're okay. If we're above that, then they have to be mitigated.
It's a more stringent.
Correct.
Okay.
Much more
okay.
stringent,
Very good.
much more, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, much more.
Just, Ginny, just one other question. The badge system, what would that, like, was there discussion around, because aren't there already badges that people use?
So, in our evaluation of the workplace violence, walkthroughs and discussions with Needham facilitated that, our Needham Safety Group. So they make suggestions. We do have badges. I want to be very clear about that. When we do have guests they do go to our greeter windows. They do get a visitor badge. They sign in, and then they're able to access the building. The recommendation is that there are software programs out there that you can use where it's a little bit more enhanced security. So, for example, in some neighboring districts, you would go to a school, you'd have to show your ID. It goes scanned through a little machine, and then it pops out a little sticker with your likeness on it and your name and the business where you're going. In some cases of the software, it can run the license and the information through the sex offender list. So there are some enhancements there that they were recommending that we could explore to help enhance our processes here. So there are absolute significant costs to a program like that, and certainly something that we would want to explore and what that would look like here in Lake George.
Anybody else? Thank you, Janine. The next report is the Policy Committee report with Mary Ann McKenzie, the chair of that committee.
Okay. We have 7 policies moving forward to second read this evening, and we did discuss each of those at last month's board meeting. We have one policy, 5220, district investments, is being recommended to first read tonight. And we talked about this last month as well. This is one of the policies that requires annual review, and we're sort of lining it up for the July reorg meeting. This policy was reviewed in audit and finance, and the recommendation that came out of that committee, and then it came to policy, and the recommendation was to add a deputy treasurer, like a designee if the treasurer couldn't fulfill the responsibilities, and that was the revision that was present there. And that's all that we have moving forward tonight. I will just comment that Donna reached out to me earlier today with a really good question about policy 5691, which is communicable diseases and human immunodeficiency virus, HIV related illnesses. And Donna, excellent question, pointed out that basically there's a paragraph in this policy that talks about communicable diseases and then almost an identical section on HIV, and was questioning why are we pulling that out and restating for that. And it's a great question. And I don't really know the answer, but we talked about, it's correct as it's written, but why are we singling it out? And I'm suspecting that like I've just pulled out the law book here, and the language is in here under for HIV, but I think we can research that and determine, maybe it's required language. If it's not, maybe there's a way to improve the setup in the policy and the way that we express the same content. So I think that I would like to circle back to the board. We'll do a little bit of research and we can share that with the policy group. And if it is required to be there, then it's forward. And if it looks like we have an opportunity to make an improvement, we can bring it back to policy and look at that. Does that sound reasonable to the rest of the group?
I appreciate your research and your willingness to
Oh, yeah.
look into that. for
That's
us.
the great thing about policy, because they're living documents, and it's always a possibility to just put it right back in the queue and take another look. We want it to be better all the time. Thank you. It was a good question.
And Marianne loves policy questions. So I scanned. So I did an extra look, since this is my last chance to comment on policy, and I came up with a query. So it's on the religious expression for employees, and it speaks very specifically about attire not being included in something that would be disallowable. And I'm assuming that extends to things like pendants, tattoos, ashes on Ash Wednesday, a bindi, something like that. That would be an expression, right? But that would be somebody's personal practice.
Question is.
But is that the common understanding when we use the word attire, that we're talking about personal adornment?
Yeah, I believe that's the intent
Yeah.
of that language. Absolutely.
We'll make sure And anyway, whoops.
So,
Our next meeting is in September, and that's the end of the report.
so the policy that Donna had a question about, we're going to move forward with it, but circle back.
If the group is
It-
comfortable moving forward with it, because the language is correct.
Right.
The question is it legally required that it be set up and stated in the way that it is?
Hmm.
Or can we take another
Yes.
look at it and have it, maybe not be so redundant, but a little.
I mean, the reason for my questioning is that, HIV is a communicable disease. All communicable diseases should be treated with care and, there's universal
Right.
precautions, I don't know why we're singling that out as a specific, I don't think there's a need to single out
Yeah.
people with a certain disease.
Right.
There are other diseases that are just as contagious, blood through blood. Where was I going with that? So it's not wrong to be in there.
Right.
But if we find out we don't have to single it out, I would prefer not to single out a certain disease,
Yeah.
unless there's some legal reason why we had to put that in.
And I know
But I don't mind it, it's there, there's probably a reason, but.
it's a great question because there's been other policies where like the Boy Scouts was singled out of a whole group of community groups. And I think like sickle cell anemia was singled out within, so and we're required to do it. So I'll be curious if this is written this way because we're required. It's a great question. So. Anybody else? Yeah, go for it.
Now that Tricia brought up this, now I have a question. So I noticed the religious, so what it says is they can wear religious attire. So religious attire, I would think, like Tricia does, is something that that their religion kind of requires them to wear, certain hat, yarmulkes, whatever. But that's different, right, than like a t-shirt with a slogan that's promoting. Would we agree? So when you say religious attire, that's something required by a religion, right? As opposed to promoting like a slogan that's promoting. It seems like, is that clear from the? Yeah, right. So, to me, when I read it and I say religious attire, okay, yeah, sure, no one should be inhibited from wearing something that their religion requires, which is different than maybe a t-shirt that's promoting something. So is that why it's worded that way? It's religious attire.
The policy in the paragraph speaks to the practices of their specific religion. So I think when I read that, it is in accordance with the religion that they're practicing, not necessarily promoting.
I think that's clear from the wording, but I just want to make sure. Because it says they're not supposed to proselytize.
You can't, we're obligated to make sure that people have freedom of expression without promoting a particular, yeah.
Good questions. Are we all set, Mary Ann, with your, okay. The next committee report and the last committee report tonight is board development, which I'm the chair of that. So I'm going to give that report. And we did not have a meeting in the last couple months, but we had a lot of homework. So I'm just going to kind of give you a little update on board development committee from our homework assignments. And we have been reviewing some of the protocol documents, which include committee guidelines. And that document is now a combination of two documents. One was district committees and the other one was board committees. The committee charters were finalized and put on the district website. And thank you, Donna, for asking the question about where many months ago, where might those charters live and were they going to be on the website? It was a great question and idea, and it's done. So another document that was updated was the communication protocols document, and the board member reference guide has been updated with all these updated versions. And Sarah's in the process of scanning the New York State School Board Association reference booklets into that guide. And thank you, Sarah, because they're kind of chunky, and that's not a super quick task. So thank you for doing that. And Jeff Meyer is our newly elected board member. While we're have tears in our eyes over Trish, literally, we're very excited to bring Jeff Meyer on board. He had planned on being here tonight, ended up not being able to be here tonight, and the onboarding process for him has begun. And Marianne McKenzie's volunteered to be the lead mentor for the upcoming school year for him. And as the board development chair, I appointed her to that role. And as the year goes along, we will refine the orientation and onboarding process. We started 6 years ago, we didn't have one of those. 5 years ago, we didn't have one. It's been a much more recent thing that we've had a orientation process. And Donna and Mario were guinea pigs a couple years ago. And, so we did some refinement then, and we're looking forward to getting Jeff's feedback and Marianne's feedback as we go along through the year, and really everybody who's involved giving us feedback so we can really continually improve that process of orientation. And in our board development committee meeting a few months ago, it was determined that we would like to do a board retreat, which we had last Thursday evening with Mark Snyder, who was our facilitator, and he's a trainer from New York State School Board Association. And he worked with all the board members were able to be there. Jeff Meyer, our new board member, and our superintendent, John Luthringer. And the main topic for the evening was roles and responsibilities as a governance team. And I took away some good nuggets of information from this training, and hopefully other folks did too. And anytime you have questions about your work as a board member or ideas for future trainings, future retreats, please reach out and let me know. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, we don't have to necessarily have somebody from NYSBA come in as a facilitator. There's a lot of ways to do that. So as things come up, the board development committee can do some research and figure out how to best get ourselves educated in those areas. And we had a lot of committee reports tonight, so please be thinking about your committee work, because I'm going to be reaching out to you soon to get the committee assignments organized for the upcoming school year. So be thinking about, the things that are working for you, things that aren't, so we can get the committees organized before our July 1st reorganization meeting. And lastly, at the July 1st reorganization meeting, we will vote on board leadership. And Marianne has reached out and expressed to me an interest in serving for another year as vice president. And I'm willing to and interested in serving as president for another year if that's what the board would like. So be thinking about that. And please let me know if you have questions or thoughts or ideas, desires in any of the areas that I talked about tonight for board development. So any questions, thoughts, ideas? Okay. Yeah, okay. The next item on the agenda is our first of 2 public comment sessions. Did we have anybody sign up, Sarah? Okay. And if you didn't sign up, people are always welcome to come forward. We have a sign-up sheet for the purpose of being able to have contact information for folks and to be organized during public comment. And if anybody has joined us online and has a question or a comment, they can email boe@lkgeorge.org, and the board and the superintendent will get those emails, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So the next item on the agenda, we're going to move into our consent agenda portion of the evening. And the first section there is the school business consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the school business consent agenda items A through M. In quick summary here, items A, B, C, and D are customary reports such as board minutes, special education recommendations, treasury reports, claims audit reports that were presented tonight from our audit and finance report. Item E is a motion to authorize funding of the district approved reserves with excess of 4% from the unassigned fund balance. This is a customary one at this time of year. Item F is a lengthy resolution in regards to the voters of the Lake George Central School District at the annual meeting approving the proposition for bonding and notes for the purchase of our electric bus. Scrolling down, item G is the motion in reference to policies moving to second read. Item H is a motion to approve the purchase of Foundations Phonics Wilson Language Training textbooks for pre-K through 3 phonics program. Item I is a motion to accept proposal from Gervin and Filazzo for legal fees for the years of June 30th, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. Item J is a motion to accept the donation of sun safety items through the Cancer Prevention and Action Grant of Glens Falls Hospitals as presented. Item K is a motion to approve the proposal from Top Form for athletic training services for the 25 school year. And item L is a motion in reference to the tax certiorari that Mario presented earlier. And item M is a motion to accept the donation of various telescopes from Loretta Labar at an approximate value of $3,858.47.
Second.
Do you have any questions? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item is faculty staff recognitions, and we have the faculty staff resignation consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be resolved that the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff resignation consent agenda items A through C. Item A is a motion to accept the resignation of Roger Wells for the purpose of retirement from the position of Earth Science teacher effective June 30th, 2024. Item B is a motion to accept the resignation of Christine Banalski from the position of part-time food service helper. And item C is to motion to approve the termination of Kristen McCartan from the position of part-time food service helper.
Any questions? Any discussion? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the consent agenda is faculty staff appointment consent agenda.
As recommended by the superintendent, be resolved that the Board of Education of Lake George Central School District hereby approves the faculty staff consent appointments items A through B. Items A is a motion to appoint Leslie Marcotte to the probationary position of head groundskeeper / custodian. Item B is a motion to approve the amended 23-24 substitute list not hired through BOCES.
Moved.
Any questions? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the unaffiliated staff terms and conditions.
As recommended by the superintendent, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby approves the terms and conditions of employment for the unaffiliated staff personnel as presented.
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the addendum to the employment agreement for the superintendent of schools. And that is, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby extends the employment of John Luthringer as superintendent of schools to June 10th, 2029, approves the addendum to the Superintendent Luthringer's contract dated June 11th, 2024, and authorizes board president to execute said addendum.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Yay.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the Board of Education comments and discussions. Anybody have any items? I do. Yeah. As the school year comes to a close, we want to thank Sarah and John for your tireless efforts all year long. Thank you for the countless things you take care of, the big things and the little details that make a difference to all in the district. Well, you know, we work with you closely. It is for everyone that your work, and we really appreciate your care of others and your care for your work. So thank you so much. We have a little something for you to enjoy all summer long, just for a thank you. So. Here it comes. So thank you for your work. And the really good news is there's no caterpillars on them this year. The caterpillars seem to have moved south of here last year or the year before or both. We had caterpillars. We didn't on purpose, but yeah, they were everywhere. You couldn't avoid them. So I believe these to be caterpillar free. So, and next, we would like to celebrate a little bit more, Tricia, and Fran, your words. You know, every single word I embraced and brought tears to my eyes, and I have to look at my notes and hope that I don't cry a little more. Tricia, it's been a pleasure. Sorry. Tricia Connor Biles, it's been a pleasure to serve alongside you for the past 6 years as a Lake George School Board member, and thank you for being our president for 3 of those years. We've learned and grown together, and I thank you for all that you've taught me. Thank you for leaving a legacy of healthy protocols and procedures, and for putting pen to paper or Google Doc and spearheading the creation of documents that can be referenced and followed so that we as a board are operating at a high level of integrity and correctness now and in the future. Most importantly, thank you for helping to nurture and grow a culture of kindness, respect, curiosity, open-minded problem solving, creativity, dedication, and care. You are leaving this little corner of the world better than you found it. Thank you. And I know others have a few words to say this evening.
I have notes, but I'm gonna just not because I can't. Fran, thank you for that was so eloquent, and
Yeah.
Katie, so eloquent. Yeah, so I just want to say that Trish, you have since I've known you, helped broaden my understanding of what true leadership is. And 2 categories of leadership, in that. One is, and you are a true leader, and that's why I see so much more now. You have vision. You know, so many times when there was confusion or murky waters, you saw the path and you pointed to it and nudged us in the correct directions without needing to dominate or control it. You put us in the path and then celebrated our strengths. That's great leadership. And it's beautiful. And the other quality of leadership that is so major is that you set the model and the tone. You demonstrate and ask others to also reach for our higher selves. And you do that in everything you do with an open mind, a sense of adventure, good humor, and kindness. And I always will remember when you said one time to a group of people who had a concern, you know, I'm going to ask you to not just be civil in this conversation, but to be kind. And you know, you had an effect. You have an effect on people because you set that tone as a leader. And so I just want to say thank you for everything, all that you have done for this school district and for me personally through this experience. It's been huge. Thank you.
Say really quickly, Tricia, you know, uh, being an old dog, I didn't know if I could learn too many new tricks, and being a part of the board, um, it was a nerve-wracking decision for me, and I found it to be probably one of the best decisions I could have ever made, not only in serving the Lake George community, but in what I've learned through you, even in this late stage of my professional career, my personal life, et cetera. So I just want to let you know that I have been and I will continue asking myself in challenging or unsettling situations, what would Trisha Biles say? And it'll always point me in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Well, I can't say anything really more than these wonderful people and Fran had said tonight. So, but I just want to say thanks for everything you've done for me. And you really stepped up to the plate when you were badly needed. And I'll forever remember you for that. And I remember talking to you about it all. But anyway, so, and given a lot to the board throughout the years and a lot of leadership, and I've learned so much from you. So thank you very much.
Can I say a few words?
You, yes, please.
I just want to say, and I'll be brief because, oh my gosh, you guys have all gone on. I just feel so honored and celebrated, and thank you all for this opportunity. You know, I've learned so much on this journey. I've shared this journey with so many of you, Fran and Jim and Megan and Bonnie and Sarah and Katie from the get-go was right there, my right-hand person. And I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for every single person I've shared this journey with, folks who were on the board before, administrators that were here before. I have learned from every single person, and I can take something beyond this time on the board. And Fran, when you said that I care about meaningful words, that just resonated, and thank you for recognizing that. And I hope that every single person here bearing witness, whether you're online or present, but certainly especially our board members, recognize how meaningful this work is in education, how important your jobs are. And I'm so pleased to have been a part of it for really a blip, right? 6 years is a journey, but it was a blip. And I just want to share with you that in the early days when we had all the tumult, right? I would come home all hot and wild, all charged up, and my husband, who's not really involved in all of the goings on, but he was a good support for me. He would say, "Oh, Trish, I'm just glad you're out there making friends." But here 6 years later, it couldn't be truer, right? The friendships that I have made and the professional connections have really kept me going. There are some all of you are amazing, but I just want to shout out some special heroes. Harry Brooks was one of the people who turned the tables to help our board come together in unity. Doug Huntley, oh my gosh, I learned so much from him, and was so grateful for the service he had. But there's one special hero who I want to speak to right now, because she's been here for this entire journey, and that's Sarah Barton. And Sarah Barton is so my hero. She has led with a steadiness and integrity, a rock solid foundation for this district through some crazy times, and she keeps doing it. She keeps doing it. There's this all the new board members come in, different people shift and change, and I was thinking about Sarah, and I don't know if you've ever seen this Norman Rockwell picture. It's about a family vacation. It's actually called Coming and Going, right? And it shows a station wagon with the family going off on vacation. And then the picture directly under it is the station wagon going in the opposite direction, coming home from vacation. And in the first picture, they're all excited and wild. And in the second picture, they're all, fatigued and droopy and so forth. But there's one aspect of that picture that does not change. And it is the grandmother in the back seat. If you look closely at that picture, this woman is sitting straight and pointing forward, and that's Sarah Barton. She's just there. She's constant, and we can rely on her. And thank you, Sarah, for all of that. Oh dear. There's so much more I can say, but I'm not going to say any further except thank you. Great gratitude for all of you.
Give you a doll. And for those of you who can't see it up close, there's a little pandemic mask, a pen, and a scroll with some of the legacy pieces that Trish has left behind.
Thing that got me into the board in the first place is that I showed up to a community meeting with an infographic. And there was a term that I invented called SPLAT, and it stood for significant public lash out intention. And my bobblehead has splat. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. And I think, we should do something that Trish started, I think right when we had our shift in our mascot, and that would be a celebratory wave. You want to start us off, Janine? Ready? Yeah.
3, 1, 2, 3.
He's right. Bring it back. Bring it back. Good job, Bonnie, bringing that wave back. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you so much. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Let's see. Let me flip this over. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby proposes entering. Oh, I'm sorry. We had a second public I'm so sorry. Yes, we have a second public comment. Thank you for keeping me in line here, guys. Yes, I'm very sorry. Welcome. We welcome your public comment. And I'm so sorry that I the wave just threw me off. So, okay, go for it. Is the microphone on?
Is it on now? Okay, so Tricia, I couldn't let you go without also taking a minute to thank you for your support, for your service to the Lake George school community. On behalf of myself and the Lake George Education Association, I applaud and appreciate your dedication to this outstanding educational institution that is the Lake George School District. You have always been a staunch advocate for what is right and for all students, and you have truly kept every child in this district as your first priority. You've never shied away from a difficult decision, nor did you step back when the going got tough. Your leadership, through careful research, reflection, and listening, have left a positive and lasting impression on this educator and on this school. So thank you again for your years of service, your expertise, and for being a true friend to education. With warmest regards and best wishes, thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for helping set me straight, guys, keeping me on the right track. Okay, now the next item on the agenda is a proposed executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Lake George Central School District hereby proposes entering into an executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person, and that's the year-end evaluation review of our superintendent. We do not anticipate coming back out into public meeting. Thank you. Oh, yeah, sorry. Listen, I am just like, I am so moved that I can't even get to the so moved part. Okay, do we have a motion for that? Oh,
Second.
any questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. All righty, off we go.